There.
Right on.
I feel comfortable.
You comfortable? You good? You set?
Hmm?
I don't usually say this, but my background's better, and I'm just gonna say that.
It
You've
is.
you've got a great shot. My background's better, so
Yeah, well, look at it. See, at home, I'd have a white piano behind me,
hmm
a fucking palm tree, and it would be really iconic, but not today.
not today, not today. Well, how about we do this proper and jump into this right here
Let's do it.
and talk about Starcatcher.
Starcatcher.
Starcatcher. Uh, so when we were talking last year, I think you'd set it up and everything to let's just begin where we left off and everything, because this was sort of the reset. Is that the way to say it? I mean, this album, um, going back to the roots, I believe, was the headline that ended up running on all the sites and everything. So take us back there. Why did you all decide to kind of go this route?
Well, we reached the mountaintop, in our opinion, of what we wanted to do creatively with the Battle at Garden's Gate. And it was a matter of where do we go from there? And I think that a pretty kind of standard thing to do is go back to where you last were. So we kind of looked back and we thought, you know what? We've grown so much musically and as writers and as a band. Why don't we reapproach some of the things that we were doing before? For example, going back to the garage days where we would write a song and record it ourselves. And so what we did is a combination between going out into the woods and in a cabin and setting up full band and writing new material, which is not uncommon for Greta Van Fleet. It's a pretty standard kind of practice. But what we kind of ended up doing is creating in the studio and capturing the creation in the studio. A lot of the album, a lot of Starcatcher is actually us interpreting the music for the first time moments after we kind of wrote a part. So I think the important part for us was to keep it live, to keep it raw, and to keep the exciting things in and not overanalyze it and not over perfect it. Going using the first guitar solo rather than the 50th guitar solo.
Yeah, first thought, best thought, sort of a thing.
Yeah, exactly. So it was high energy, fast paced, and I think it reflects on the record because it sounds fun. It's exciting. It's sonically it's a landscape, and it was just really fun to create. And I think that's what music should be, and that's what recording should be anyway.
Yeah, it's interesting the time. Just kind of looking through rock history and seeing how bands and how their success affects what they choose to do next, and as you say, kind of making it to the mountaintop creatively and successfully. You guys are doing good. That it might be a natural time to start looking back. I mean, I guess what I'm asking is, if at all, how much does nostalgia start playing a part of it? Like, hey, remember when we were just in the garage in the basement? Like, is nostalgia part of what you're talking about?
I think that is an element of it. I think it's the kind of the romanticism of four guys creating together in an undisclosed location. I think that a lot of the inspiration for the album was it moved very quickly, and ideas were very quickly picked up or very quickly abandoned. So we really made a lot of decisions very very quickly. Very definitive things, very kind of polarized. Like, yes, this is what we want, or no, this isn't what we want.
Hmm.
But I think we can attribute some of that fast pacedness to Dave Cobb because he likes to move very quickly, and what we could very well end up doing is get stuck being meticulous and overanalyzing something. So instead of retrying a part or a take, he would just say, "No, do it again, or let's get the next thing. Let's move on." So I think it's yeah, the romanticism of just four guys in the band creating together and being relaxed and being authentic and capturing it in an authentic light. And I think that was the whole concept for the album going in.
Yeah. Is there like that line in Frozen Light, four brothers searching for a meal? Like, is that one of those moments that you kind of appropriate to real life? Like, is that speaking to this moment?
Exactly. It's a little nod to us almost in this mythological story.
Mhm.
So, and that also kind of slipped in now that you mentioned that. There was some more personal things that Josh kind of started writing about on this album, which I think is really interesting because not only I think he's at his literary peak as a lyricist and as a writer, but also he's taking some different perspectives and he's taking some of his own perspectives and they're unique perspectives because there's very few people in the world who kind of are in the same position as we are, and we have the opportunity to uh, analyze things and talk about our own discoveries and talk about our own adventures while applying it to a much wider scale. So I think some of the lyrics are really, really next level on this album.
I mean, they're literally next level. They're out of this world in the cosmic sense,
Mhm.
in the spiritual sense, and maybe sort of in the biblical sense. When I look at it and the story that the album sort of tells, you start to wonder because I mean, geez, the first line is "Hell, the God song." I mean, that's how the album starts. you know, I don't know if we can speak directly to that. What is the story this album tells? Because you all, I guess, are taking the elements of stuff that you've sang about in the past. What are those that make their way to Starcatcher, and what is this wider story?
It's kind of the story of complete just the creation of the universe, really. And it kind of talks about these different mythical figures that are very three-dimensional and intangible in a lot of ways. Uh, that being said, the Starcatcher figure is one that is kind of this creator figure. Um, and yeah, I guess it plays with some themes of life and living, and it touches some pretty big themes, but it goes from the kind of like the creator of the universe and the inner child of the creator. It's kind of like goes from the perspective of what you may call refer to as God, uh, Krishna, Yahweh, whatever you want to call it, and it goes down to this, the perfection of a child and the unperverted nature that the child's mind has, towards humanity and just being. I know it's a bit vague because you're trying to push all of this different information into kind of like one box, but that's the overarching theme. But we also break loose a little bit and we have some fun and we kind of talk about ourselves a little bit too.
Yeah. So, was there any reason? I mean, was this just the natural next point of the story you all wanted to tell? I mean, was there conversation saying this is, like, why? How did you end up here?
It started with what we were doing musically. It started with what started like emerging when uh, Jake, Daniel, and I were kind of creating the music landscapes. And then Josh is always around, kind of listening to what we're doing, and he kind of jumps in when he feels it's the right time to make a judgment call about what the song is about and what it is lyrically. Uh, so the music informs the lyrics, and then the lyrics inform the music, and it just kind of ping pongs back and forth until we have this fully realized idea. So I think Josh kind of ran with that concept as the music was being created.
Yeah, and into the cosmos we go.
Yeah, exactly. And then we know we have a better idea of what it is lyrically and what it is story wise. So then we can run with that.
Yeah.
So it's about creating and exploring at the same time.
I love that theme though. And it, I don't know, hopefully, probably, I'm guessing, I'm not trying to project here, but that's probably part of the intention. Have the listener think about it. And I do start thinking about that. I mean, those big questions as we look to the cosmos sometimes for that. Wondering, does spirituality and science, are they in contrast or not? And
I
then
love
what if
that about you, Kyle. You're always asking questions.
well then, but there's the darker side of that too, right? What if nothing? Like you're asking the bigger question, is that part of it? Like, what if nothing?
Yeah, I think really, I think there's really great music that's kind of easy to listen to, but what we want to do is make something that's rather thought provoking, that makes you kind of snap out of your kind of daily thing, and kind of think about something and give you give you, because it's not very often that you just decide to sit down and think about, where did life come from? Why do we exist? What's our purpose here? But it's something that we've been asking for for eternity, since consciousness formed in us. So it's one of those really unique themes, and it's one of the biggest themes, and it's an ancient story, and it's a new take on that, but through the lens of rock and roll.
Right. And as you mentioned, though, the fun moments. I mean, Runway Blues, that's a fun one. I got mad that it trails off.
Me too, Kyle.
How much more of that song exists?
That's probably about half of it. Yeah, the story on that is that we just started playing it in the studio after, a few bottles of wine, and we completely made this up on the spot. That was like take one of something that we just were recording, and Josh came in and started like singing on it, and we all loved it, but Josh hated it. So eventually we convinced Josh, like, okay, we can put half of it on the record. So that kind of brings an end to side A. And then you flip the record. So it's a definite tease. And, maybe that's something we'll play live or release the whole version later, because it's really cool. And it was kind of captured the energy of what we were doing in the studio.
Yeah. Yeah. Like way back in the day, you'd have something like Ray Charles, what I'd say, and he'd put half of it on, 7-inch, half of it on the first side, the other half on the second side, allow
That's
for the
great.
flip or something like that. Like, we plant that seed for you guys.
Yeah, I like that. We might use that one. I like the single thing. Use it, yeah, release it just as a single. That'd be fun.
Yeah, yeah. I'd love to hear what the second half of that. But there's those moments in there. I mean, the headphones moments, the background vocals at the end of the Falling Sky.
Mhm.
Like there's sort of free license, I'm sure, when you're making the record, but those moments like that, like how weird, wacky do you want to go?
Yeah, exactly. It's about just coming out with absolutely zany ideas and seeing what works, and if it's an avenue that makes sense, and making something that's really unique and hasn't necessarily been heard before, because I think that's really what we're out to do, is create something that doesn't exist, and once again pull the stuff out of the air as it's zipping by you, kind of the exploring thing, but also inventing and creating at the same time, and creating something that's exciting. And yeah, we experimented a lot with backup vocals because it's a very human texture always, and it's just something that really lends itself to feel very very human and very textured.
Yeah. It's fun, and so much is said about the music. I mean, we would talk about the story and the music all the time. Do, do does film ever play a part of your all's inspiration? Because when I think about these thematic, concept albums, like we, again, influences music, music, music. But are movies a part of it?
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, when you're watching a film, it's like this marrying between these fantastic visuals and these very dramatic soundscapes, and the plot line, of course, the story, arguably the most important part. So film has all of those things, and what we try to do is we try to make a film that that's an album. It's the visual sense lives actually within the music. It's almost like a book meets a film in in music form, because you're drawing your own visual landscape and your visual environment and characters within your own imagination, which is really fun because you get to use your imagination while listening to this stuff. And maybe mine's a little different from Jake's, or from Daniel's or Josh's. but the listener gets to, emotionally invest